Hi guys, DevilHunterXYZ, and in this video I want to discuss the new Star Wars movie. Yes, 10 years since the last one, Episode 3, and now we actually get our hands on Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And for the most part, it was actually a pretty good movie, and it's pretty incredible, just being able to see Star Wars again on the big screen after so many years. So let's take a look at it. Well, as for the plot for this movie, it takes place 30 years after the events of Return of the Jedi, and a new military power has risen up known as the First Order, which mainly comprises of the remains of the Galactic Empire, and their goal is to eliminate the Republic and Luke Skywalker. And so the Resistance ends up going into war with the First Order, and Princess Leia sends one of her skillful pilots, Poe Dameron, to find Luke, and Poe ends up on a planet known as Jakku and speaks with a village elder who gives him a map leading to the whereabouts of Luke. But before he's able to leave, he's captured by stormtroopers and the commander known as Kylo Ren. So Poe is captured, but he manages to put the map within his droid BB-8, and the droid manages to escape. And the droid is eventually found by a local scavenger known as Rey. And for the time being, there's a little stuff going on, but for the most part, it cuts back to Ren, who's interrogating Poe about the whereabouts of the map, and eventually, one of the stormtroopers, I guess with a guilty conscience, decides to help Poe escape, and so they manage to escape on a TIE fighter and manage to crash land back onto Jakku, and for the time being, he is dubbed Finn. Uh, while back at Jakku, Poe is MIA, but Finn manages to locate Rey and the BB-8 droid, and while they're trying to learn that they can find Luke Skywalker, they get attacked by the First Order, and so they had to kind of make a quick getaway, and they ended up leaving the planet on a broken down Millennium Falcon. Well, the Millennium Falcon eventually breaks down, and to a surprise, we see Han Solo and Chewbacca actually reclaiming their ship. And while they're, they manage to discover Finn and Rey, and they pretty much team up together to try to get to the Resistance. And so they flew off to a planet known as Takodana, and they meet up with someone named Maz. And while there, she was able to kind of help get them to the Resistance in some way. And while there, though, we see Rey manages to locate the lightsaber that belonged to Luke Skywalker and his father before him. And apparently, the lightsaber seems to have some kind of connection with her, and that she doesn't really know too much about it. Well, then back on the Starkiller base in the First Order, essentially it's just a giant, massive planet with a super weapon, kind of similar to the Death Star. Anyway, they're testing out their super weapon, which is able to destroy star systems. And after that, we see the First Order making an appearance on the Takodana planet, and the entire game gets into like a epic firefight with the stormtroopers. And unfortunately, we do see Rey get captured, and she is then interrogated by Kylo Ren, and it is soon discovered that Rey also has the Force within her, and she has somewhat of a Jedi capabilities. Well, afterwards, we do see Han, Chewie, Finn, BB-8 meet up with Leia on the Resistance base, and along with C-3PO and R2-D2, a good appearance from those two. Uh, Basically, their goal from that point is to have an attack on the Starkiller base, and at the same time find and rescue Rey. So Han decides to take up this task using the Millennium Falcon with the rest of the crew. They end up getting into the base to deactivate the shields for the rest of the X-wing fighters. And while there, they did encounter Rey and managed to rescue her. And at the same time, Han and Chewie were going to set off explosives to destroy the base within inside. Starting a chain reaction, and while they were setting up the bombs, Han encounters Ren, and Of course, you find out that Ren is actually the son of Han and Leia, and for a moment you do see Ren kind of sympathizing with Han, but in the end you see Ren actually killing Han Solo, and at the same time that's when Chewie sets off the whole chain explosion, pretty much destroying the entire base. Well, afterwards, we do see Finn and Rey engaging in battle against Kylo Ren, and Finn uses the lightsaber to try to take him down, but of course he's wounded. So Rey ends up taking the lightsaber to try to finish the job, and unfortunately, right before the battle ends, a fissure tears through the planet, separating them, allowing Ren to escape. And after the planet's destroyed and they make their way back to the Resistance, uh, the R2D2 was able to be reactivated, and with his portion of the map, along with the BB-8s, they were able to find the exact location of where Luke is. So Chewie and Rey decides to go and find Luke, and pretty much the movie ends where Rey encounters Luke and she tries to hand him the lightsaber. Well, for the pros of the movie, I do have a few of them. One being that, luckily, you don't have to actually watch any of the other movies to make sense of this one, as the story itself is more or less independent and doesn't really rely on the previous movies. I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't have seen the other Star Wars movies to begin with, but I guess if you have friends or family who've never seen Star Wars, luckily you can actually follow this one pretty well. Second would be the characters, the new ones like BB-8, Rey, Finn, Poe. Uh, I mean, those characters actually work pretty well. You know, they actually do have some good character development, and they're not just throwaway characters, which I'm glad. And speaking of characters, that brings to the next one, which is the return of the cast from Return of the Jedi, and it's just good to see the old actors back again after so many years, and it worked pretty well. Seeing Han Solo and Leia, of course, seeing R2D2 and C3PO. It was a pretty good blast from the past. And of course, there's obviously the whole action scenes from the movie. I mean, it's Star Wars. We do see the occasional battles against the stormtroopers. We do see space battles, and we do get the occasional lightsaber duels. So I mean, it's basically how traditional Star Wars should be. Well, as for the cons, there are a few things that I take away from the movie. One being the comedic element that they try to put into the movie. I mean, I know previous Star Wars movies they had comedic elements, but they were more or less subtle. But it's like here they were kind of added forcefully, try to add this humor stuff right in your face to try to get you to, I guess, laugh. But at times it kind of feels a little bit awkward. Um, I guess the next thing would be the whole lightsaber thing. And to me, when I think of lightsabers, I always think of Jedi's using lightsabers. And I think what was strange to me is just that both Finn and Rey were able to use lightsabers. Uh, I mean, Finn, for one thing, he was a stormtrooper, so I guess the question is, were stormtroopers able to use lightsabers before? I guess. I mean, it just seems kind of weird that Finn was able to use it, kind of decently. At least put up a decent fight against Ren. I could understand Rey being able to use the lightsaber since she does have the Force and she is somewhat equivalent to a Jedi. So I can understand that, but even still, she doesn't really know much about the lightsaber at all, and yet she was still able to overthrow Ren. So that kind of seemed a little bit weird that they were pretty much skillful right off the bat with the lightsaber. And finally, I say my last con is the whole premise of the movie. Um, I guess more or less, this movie is a little bit similar to Episode 4, A New Hope, and I mean, you do see some similarities if you compare the movies side by side, and it does work. I actually would say it works better in this movie as opposed to Episode 4, but at the same time, it kind of seems a little bit, already done. I mean, we've seen this type of plot happen before. I was kind of expecting something a little bit more different, and I know it's kind of a big build-up for the next two movies. But it's just for right now. It just seems just a complete remake of Episode 4 in some ways. Well, overall, I say this movie is pretty good. I mean, of course it is. It's Star Wars. You know, who doesn't like Star Wars? I mean, it's been over a decade since Episode 3, and I'm pretty sure there were a lot of Star Wars fans camping out overnight trying to see this movie the minute it came out. And there probably are people right now who are rewatching this movie, and I mean, it's Star Wars. I'd say definitely go watch this movie. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, I still think you enjoy it. It's a good sci-fi movie. Uh, I'm pretty glad that Disney took the approach to actually continue on with the whole saga of Star Wars, and I'd like to see what they can do for the rest of the trilogy, for episodes 8 and 9. I mean, it's only a matter of time before we get to see those movies on the big screen too. But as of right now, for this movie, I would give it a final score of a 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, I really recommend this movie to go out and see it right now if you can. I mean, hopefully it won't be too packed, depending on the time of day. But yeah, seriously, see this movie. Well, this is DevilHunterXYZ, and until next time.